the voice from heaven, when God interrupts the unbearable. We stand now at one of the most dramatic intersections in all of Scripture. Genesis chapter 22, verses 11 and 12. Two verses that contain only 39 words in English. Yet within these words, the entire architecture of salvation history pivots on a single divine utterance. This is the moment when the knife is raised, when human obedience reaches its absolute zenith, when covenant faith is tested beyond all comprehension, and when divine intervention becomes the only barrier between life and death. Before we immerse ourselves in the text itself, we must understand the magnitude of what we are entering. This is not merely a story preserved in ancient parchment about an elderly patriarch and his son on a remote mountain. This is a theological earthquake that fractures the foundations of every false religion. This is a mystical unveiling that tears the veil between heaven and earth. This is a psychological portrait of trauma, testing, and supernatural healing. This is a cosmic drama where the seen and unseen worlds collide with such force that the reverberations echo through every generation that follows. What unfolds in these two verses is not merely an event in sacred history, but a tectonic recalibration of creation itself. This is the moment when obedience reaches its outermost boundary, and mercy intervenes as the deeper law. This is where time itself is suspended, where the human hand is halted mid-trajectory, where the universe learns for the first time that the God of Abraham does not desire the death of the beloved. This is the arrest of the knife, the voice that rewrites reality, and the birth of mercy in the nervous system of the world. Let us read Genesis chapter 22, verses 11 and 12. And as we read, let us recognize that we are standing on holy ground. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. He said, Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. 2 verses, 2 sentences. And yet every syllable is drenched in meaning that extends from eternity past into eternity future. Every grammatical choice in the original Hebrew is intentional and revelatory. Every pause, marked by the Masoretic cantillation, carries theological weight. Every word opens a door into mysteries that theologians, mystics, and scholars have explored for millennia without exhausting their depths. Our journey begins not at the surface level of translation, but at the foundational bedrock of the language itself. We will parse every Hebrew term, examine every verb stem and tense, explore every grammatical structure. Because in the original language, God breathed truth into consonants and vowels, into syntax and sound, into rhythm and resonance. The verb that summons, Vayikra. The opening phrase of verse 11 in the Hebrew Masoretic text reads, Vayikra elav Malakh Adonai min hashamayim. Let us begin our parsing with the very first word, because this word sets the tone for everything that follows. Vayikra. This is the verb to call, to cry out, to summon. The root is kara, spelled with the Hebrew letters kuaf, resh and aleph. This 3-letter root appears more than 730 times throughout the Hebrew Bible, and every occurrence carries the weight of intentional summoning, of purposeful address, of deliberate calling. This is the same verb used in Genesis chapter 3 verse 9, when God walks in the garden after the fall and calls to Adam, Where are you? It is the same verb used in Exodus chapter 3 verse 4, when God calls to Moses from the burning bush, Moses, Moses. It is the verb of divine interruption. It is the verb of sovereign intervention. It is the verb of rescue breaking into human tragedy. But we must examine the grammatical form with precision, because the form reveals the function. Vayikra is conjugated in the kal stem, which is the simple active voice in Hebrew, the basic, straightforward form of the verb without any added intensity or causation. This is not the peel intensive, nor the hip-hill causative, nor the nifl passive. This is kal, pure and direct. The angel calls. The action is clear, unadorned, and absolute. But the verb is also in the imperfect tense with a vav consecutive prefix. The vav consecutive is one of the most important grammatical constructions in biblical Hebrew narrative. It is the heartbeat of Hebrew storytelling. The vav is the conjunction meaning. And the consecutive aspect means that it converts the imperfect tense into a narrative past tense that moves the story forward in sequential time. And then this happened. And then the angel called. The vav consecutive creates forward momentum. It propels the narrative from one event to the next. It does not describe habitual action or future possibility. It narrates completed action in the past as part of an unfolding story. The knife is raised. Abraham's arm is in motion. The blade is descending. And then, in that precise moment of irreversible trajectory, the angel called. The timing is critical. The call does not come before Abraham raises the knife. The call does not come, why? While Abraham is building the altar, or binding Isaac, or arranging the wood. The call comes at the exact instant when the sacrifice is about to be consummated, when there is no turning back, when the point of no return has been reached. This is divine intervention at the last possible moment. This is rescue at the edge of catastrophe. This is grace interrupting judgment at the very threshold of death. Now we must ask a deeper question about the verb kara itself. What does it mean to call? In Hebrew thought, calling is not merely producing sound waves that reach the ear. Calling is the act of addressing someone by name, of summoning them into relationship, of claiming them as your own. When God calls, God is not shouting into the void hoping someone will respond. When God calls, God is speaking with authority, with knowledge, with intimacy. The verb kara appears in Isaiah chapter 43 verse 1. But now thus says the Lord, He who created you, O Jacob, He who formed you, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, you are mine. To be called by God is to be known by God. To be called by God is to be owned by God. To be called by God is to be rescued by God. And so when the angel calls to Abraham, this is not a casual greeting. This is not a polite interruption. This is a sovereign summons from the throne of heaven. This is the voice of the Creator entering the creation at a moment of crisis to claim His own, to rescue His servant, to prevent a tragedy that would destroy the entire covenant line. The personal address. Elav. The next word in our text is Elav. To him. This is a prepositional phrase constructed from the preposition el, which means to, toward, or unto, combined with the third person, masculine singular suffix rv, which means him. The angel called to him. The voice is not broadcast to the surrounding hills. The voice is not announced to the world. The voice is directed, targeted, personal. The specificity matters profoundly. In the midst of Abraham's isolated obedience, in the silence of the mountaintop, in the loneliness of incomprehensible suffering, the voice from heaven addresses him personally. Not humanity in general. Not the righteous in theory, not the faithful in abstraction. Him. Abraham, the man with the knife, the father with the breaking heart, the servant caught between promise and command. This is the intimacy of divine rescue. God does not send a general announcement. God speaks your name. God addresses you personally. God knows exactly where you are, exactly what you are facing, exactly what you need to hear. In your deepest crisis, in your most isolated suffering, in your most unbearable testing, God calls to you. Not to everyone else. To you. The mysterious messenger, Malakh Adonai. Now we come to the subject of the sentence. Malakh Adonai, Angel of the Lord. These two words have generated more theological discussion, more interpretive debate, and more mystical speculation than almost any other phrase in the Hebrew Bible. Because the Malakh Adonai is not simply another angel, not merely one messenger among many. The Malakh Adonai is unique, extraordinary, paradoxical. Let us begin with the first word, Malakh. The root is the verb lach, which means to send, to dispatch, to commission. A Malakh is therefore a sent one, a messenger, an emissary, an agent of the one who sends. In many contexts throughout the Old Testament, Malakh simply refers to a human messenger. But in other contexts, Malakh refers to a spiritual being, a heavenly messenger, what we in English call an angel. But the Malakh Adonai is different. The Malakh Adonai is not merely a created angel carrying a message from God. In many passages, the Malakh Adonai speaks in the first person as God himself. In Genesis chapter 16, the Malakh Adonai appears to Hagar in the wilderness and says, "I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude." This is a divine prerogative. Only God can multiply offspring. Only God can make such a promise. And yet the Malakh Adonai speaks as if he is God. In Exodus chapter 3, the Malakh Adonai appears to Moses in the burning bush. The text says the Malakh Adonai appeared to him in a flame of fire. But then the voice from the bush says, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." The Malakh speaks as God. The Malakh is addressed as God. In Judges chapter 6, the Malakh Adonai appears to Gideon. The text alternates between referring to him as the Malakh Adonai and as Adonai himself. Gideon recognizes that he has seen the Malakh Adonai face to face and fears that he will die, because no one can see God and live. And yet Gideon lives, because the Malakh Adonai says, "Peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die." Who is this Malakh Adonai? Is this a created angel, a high-ranking member of the heavenly host? Or is this something more, someone more? Is this a theophany, a visible manifestation of the invisible God? Is this the pre-incarnate Christ, the eternal Word, the second person of the Trinity, appearing in visible form before the incarnation in Bethlehem? The Church Fathers wrestled with this question with great intensity. Justin Martyr, writing in the 2nd century, argued that the Malakh Adonai, who appeared throughout the Old Testament, was none other than the Logos, the Word who became flesh in Jesus Christ. Justin reasoned that God the Father is invisible, dwelling in unapproachable light, whom no one has ever seen or can see. But the Son, the Word, the Logos, is the visible manifestation of the Father, the one through whom the Father makes himself known. Therefore, every appearance of God in visible form in the Old Testament must be an appearance of the pre-incarnate Son. The Son is the one who walked in the garden with Adam. The Son is the one who appeared to Abraham at Mamre. The Son is the one who wrestled with Jacob at Peniel. The Son is the one who spoke to Moses from the burning bush. And the Son is the one who calls to Abraham on Mount Moriah and stops the knife. Irenaeus of Lyons, writing in the late 2nd century, agreed with this interpretation. He taught that the Son has always been the Father's agent of communication with creation. The Father remains invisible and transcendent. The Son is the revealer, the one who makes the Father known, the one who mediates between the eternal God and temporal creation. Tertullian, writing in the early 3rd century, argued that the Old Testament theophanies were appearances of Christ before his incarnation, preparing the way for his full revelation in the flesh. The Malakh Adonai is Christ in preliminary form, Christ in shadow, Christ in type, before Christ in fullness. This interpretation was not universal. Some of the Eastern Fathers, particularly those in the Alexandrian school, saw the Malakh Adonai as a created angel, albeit one specially commissioned to speak on behalf of God. But even they acknowledged that the Malakh Adonai speaks with divine authority, functions as God's representative, and in some mysterious way makes God present. For our purposes, what matters is this: the Malakh Adonai is not merely a messenger delivering someone else's words. The Malakh Adonai speaks with the authority of God, functions as the presence of God, and in the New Testament revelation is understood to be the pre-incarnate appearance of the eternal Son, who would one day take on human flesh and dwell among us. When the Malakh Adonai calls to Abraham on Mount Moriah, this is not a created angel interrupting a human sacrifice. This is the second person of the Trinity, the eternal Word through whom all things were made, entering into human history at a moment of crisis to rescue the child of promise and preserve the covenant line through which he himself will be born. This is Christ before Christmas. This is the Word before the Incarnation. This is the Son before Bethlehem. And the voice that stops the knife on Mount Moriah is the same voice that will one day cry out from the cross, "It is finished." The voice that rescues Isaac is the voice that will redeem the world. The covenant name, Adonai. Now we come to the second word in the phrase, Adonai, Lord. This is the sacred name, the tetragrammaton, the 4 Hebrew letters Yod, He, Vav, He, which together form the personal covenant name of the God of Israel. In most English Bibles, this name is rendered as Lord in all capital letters. The tetragrammaton is the name that God revealed to Moses at the burning bush. Moses said to God, "If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name? What shall I say to them?' God said to Moses, 'I am who I am.' And he said, 'Say this to the people of Israel, 'I am has sent me to you.'" The name YHWH is related to the Hebrew verb to be. It is the name of existence, of being, of eternal self-existence. God is the one who is, who was, and who is to come. God is the one who exists in himself, who depends on nothing outside himself, who is the source of all existence. But the name is also intensely personal. This is not a philosophical abstraction. This is not a distant first cause. This is the God who enters into covenant relationship with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the God who makes promises and keeps them. This is the God who hears the cry of the oppressed and delivers them. The use of the divine name YHWH here in Genesis 22, verse 11 is critical. This is not Elohim, the general name for God. This is not El Shaddai, God Almighty. This is not Elon, El Elyon, God Most High. This is YHWH, the personal covenant-keeping, promise-fulfilling God who called Abraham out of Ur, who gave him Isaac in his old age, who swore by his own name that through Isaac the covenant would continue. The use of YHWH tells us that this intervention is not arbitrary. This is covenant faithfulness. This is relational commitment. This is the God who knows Abraham by name and will not allow the promise to fail. The vertical dimension, en hashamayim. Now we come to the final phrase of this opening clause. En hashamayim, from the heavens. The preposition en means from, indicating origin or source. Hashamayim is the Hebrew word for the heavens, used here in the dual form, indicating the expanse above, the realm beyond the earth, the dwelling place of God. The voice comes from above. The voice comes from outside the earthly drama. The voice comes from the realm where God dwells in unapproachable light. This is not a voice from within Abraham's conscience. This is not a voice from his own moral reasoning. This is a voice from heaven, from the throne room of the Most High. The vertical dimension is essential. Abraham is locked in horizontal obedience, moving step by step toward the altar, following the command he received. But the voice comes from the vertical dimension, from the realm of eternity, from the throne of grace. Heaven interrupts earth. The eternal breaks into time. The Creator intervenes in the creation. This vertical interruption is the pattern of all divine rescue. We are trapped in the horizontal plane of cause and effect, of action and consequence, of law and judgment. We cannot escape through our own efforts. We cannot save ourselves. Salvation must come from above. Rescue must descend from heaven. Grace must interrupt judgment. The Masoretic cantillation marks add another layer of depth. The word hashamayim is marked with a zakef katon, a disjunctive accent that creates a pause and a slight upward inflection in the chant. The musical notation itself lifts the reader's voice toward heaven. The text invites the reader to experience the vertical descent of divine speech through the very act of chanting the words. When the reader chants en hashamayim with the zakef katon, the voice rises toward heaven. And in that rising, the reader experiences what Abraham experienced. The voice from above, the word from beyond, the interruption from eternity. Your journey into this text. We have begun our exploration of Genesis 22, verse 11. We have passed the opening phrase word by word. We have discovered that the verb Vayikra is the verb of divine summons, of rescue breaking into tragedy. We have seen that Elav speaks of personal targeted address. We have encountered the mysterious Malakh Adonai, the angel of the Lord who speaks as God, who is understood by the Church Fathers as the Pre-incarnate Christ. We have heard the covenant name, YHWH, the name of the faithful, promise-keeping God. And we have traced the vertical dimension of en hashamayim, the voice from heaven that descends to interrupt the horizontal plane of human suffering. But this is only the beginning. We have not yet explored the double call of Abraham's name. We have not yet examined the divine command that stops the knife. We have not yet unpacked the phrase now, I know that you fear God. We have not yet traced the typological connections to Calvary. We have not yet explored the psychological healing embedded in this text. We have not yet discovered the subatomic resonance of divine intervention. All of this awaits us in the parts to come. This is a journey that will take us through theology, mysticism, psychology, history, and personal transformation. This is not merely academic study. This is encounter with the living God. If this word has begun to touch your heart, if you sense that God is calling your name as He called Abraham's name, if you recognize that you too are standing on a mountain with a knife in your hand and a beloved son on the altar, then I invite you to continue this journey with us. Subscribe to this channel so you will not miss the next part of this series. Like this video if it has spoken to you. Share it with someone who needs to hear that God calls their name, that God interrupts their tragedy, that God rescues at the last possible moment. If you have questions, if you need prayer, if you want to connect, reach us at christforlife143gmail.com. Stay tuned for the next video. Join us next time as we explore the double call, Abraham, Abraham, and discover why God speaks your name twice when He rescues you from death. May the voice from heaven that called to Abraham call to you today. May you hear it clearly. May you know that you are seen, you are known, and you are loved. Go in peace.